Some crimes are never meant to be solved. Not because the evidence isn't there, but because someone, somewhere, made sure the truth stayed buried. From a sleep clinic hiding vanishings beneath layers of silence to cryptic letters predicting the exact moments of death, these aren't just cold cases, they're locked vaults. What connects them isn't just horror, it's the feeling that someone is always watching, and they want you to stop looking. These are 5 true crime cases that were never meant to be found. Welcome to Unsolved Archives, where we delve into the hidden, the mysterious, and the unanswered. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight could be the key to unlocking the truth. The Whisper House Murders. Green Hollow, Vermont, had always been one of those places that resisted time. Tucked between dense forest and icy creeks, it was the sort of town that barely showed up on maps and almost never made the news. That changed in 2002, when an abandoned Victorian estate on the outskirts, known locally as the Whisper House, became the site of one of the most bizarre and horrifying murder cases in state history. The Harrison estate had stood empty since the late 70s, after its last owner, Evelyn Harrison, was declared legally dead following her unexplained disappearance. Rumors swirled for decades. Some said she'd gone insane and locked herself inside the walls. Others claimed she ran a secret asylum in the basement during Prohibition. Kids dared each other to get close, swearing they heard soft murmurs from the top floor when the wind blew just right. On Halloween night, 4 teenagers, Ryan Talbot, Mara Hill, Jared Knox, and Blake Jenner, decided to film a video for their school's Urban Myth contest. Armed with a handheld camcorder, flashlights, and the brazen energy of youth, they broke into the Whisper House just after midnight. Only one of them ever left. 2 days later, a hunter in the woods several miles away stumbled across a barefoot, shaking Mara Hill. Her skin was scratched raw, and she couldn't, or wouldn't, speak. Nearby, buried in a bed of pine needles, was the bloodied camcorder. Authorities rushed to the scene. What they found in the Whisper House chilled even the most seasoned investigators. The bodies of Ryan, Jared, and Blake were discovered in separate rooms, each in a different state of mutilation. One had his throat slit so deeply he was nearly decapitated. Another was propped in a closet, eyes gouged, arms folded over his chest like he had been posed. The third appeared to have been bludgeoned with a rusted fireplace poker, found still clutched in his attacker's grip. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. There were no signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. No DNA. No footprints in or out. It was as if the killer had emerged from the walls themselves and vanished the same way. The camcorder footage offered little clarity. Most of the recording was the typical teenage dare stuff, laughing, exploring the decaying rooms, pretending to see ghosts. Around the 36-minute mark, however, things changed. Blake, the one holding the camera, turned it toward the second floor. The microphone caught a faint whisper, something like, "Come back," or "Don't leave," though analysts couldn't agree. The group started to panic. They claimed to see a figure standing at the top of the stairs. The footage grew shaky. The camera was dropped and picked up again by someone else, but the next few minutes were frantic, disorienting. Flashlights flickered. Screams. More whispers, now louder, layered voices speaking in reversed English. Then, silence. The last clear image was of Mara, crying in a hallway, whispering, I didn't want to, before she turned toward the camera. Her eyes looked different, distant, then static. Psychological evaluation of Mara revealed extreme trauma and something akin to dissociative amnesia. She couldn't recall the events inside the house. Not a single second. She was never charged due to lack of evidence and mental condition, but suspicion hung over her for years. Eventually, her parents moved her out of state. Last known record places her in a psychiatric facility in Washington. Locals began to treat the house as cursed. Town authorities finally sent in a team to seal the structure. What they found during this process deepened the mystery. Behind the basement walls, hidden by false paneling, they uncovered a series of narrow crawlspaces, too small for an adult to comfortably fit through but winding throughout the structure like arteries. Inside one of the spaces was a small mattress, a child-sized rocking chair, and dozens of old cassette tapes. Each tape was labeled with a date ranging from 1972 to 2002. The contents were chilling. Faint whispering, children sobbing, screams, followed by long stretches of silence. Some tapes had what sounded like a lullaby being hummed slowly, menacingly. Others included distant voices calling out names. One of them repeated the name Evelyn over and over, until it abruptly stopped. Police reopened the Harrison disappearance case, but the trail was too cold. Evelyn's body was never found. The theory that she may have been hiding, or imprisoned, in her own house for decades couldn't be proven. To this day, no one can explain how the teens were killed with no sign of entry or escape. No one knows who, or what, was in that house with them. The case remains officially unsolved. The estate was demolished in 2004, but many locals swear that, on quiet autumn nights, you can still hear voices in the wind coming from where the foundation used to be. The Wallet Man Case. It began with a wallet found on a bus seat in Elgin, Illinois, in January of 2015. The wallet contained the usual, a faded driver's license, some cash, a few personal cards. The name on the ID was Anthony Reeds, a 28-year-old man who had disappeared without a trace in 2011. His case had long gone cold. But now, suddenly, his wallet turned up miles from where he was last seen. Detectives thought it was a fluke, maybe even a hoax, until a second wallet surfaced 3 weeks later. This time, it was found tucked into a library return bin, and it belonged to Janine Foster, another missing person, reported gone in 2012. By March, there were 7. Each wallet was clean, no fingerprints, no signs of age or weathering, despite many of the victims having disappeared years earlier. Most were found in places where they would be easily discovered, under a park bench, inside a donation box, even left on a police station windowsill. The oddest detail? Every wallet had the same photo tucked in where family pictures usually go, a grainy, black and white image of a staircase. It looked like it led to a basement. The photo was always taken from behind someone's shoulder, as if the person holding the camera was quietly following whoever stood ahead. The media dubbed the unknown perpetrator the Wallet Man. Theories swirled, ranging from a serial killer mocking authorities to a vigilante trying to spark renewed attention to forgotten cases. By the time the wallet count reached 15, panic was beginning to brew. Families of the missing gathered, demanding answers. But detectives were baffled. The wallets were authentic. The licenses checked out. Forensics found nothing. No fingerprints, no skin cells, no fibers. It was as though the wallets had materialized from nowhere. In late summer of 2015, a break appeared. At least, it seemed like one. A man named Jared Lomay came forward, claiming he'd found a wallet on a hiking trail before the news had even picked up on the story. The name on the ID, Linda Shaver, missing since 2010. Police brought Jared in for questioning. He was cooperative, but something felt off. He couldn't recall how far down the trail he'd gone. He stammered when asked about the photo. And then came the slip. He said he thought the staircase looked like one of those storage basements you see in the old district by the mills. That part of Elgin, abandoned warehouses, long defunct, wasn't mentioned in any public reporting. Investigators obtained a warrant and searched Jared's home. It was meticulously clean. Too clean. Except for one thing, a hidden crawlspace under the floorboards, barely wide enough to fit through. Inside, they found a suitcase. In it, 17 identical black and white photos of staircases. Each one slightly different. Some steeper. Some cracked with age. Some with a small figure just barely visible in the corner. There were also scraps of what appeared to be clothing. They matched the descriptions of several missing persons. The evidence was enough to arrest Jared, but within hours of being taken into custody, he collapsed in his cell. No drugs, no poison, no physical trauma. His heart had simply stopped. The coroner listed it as sudden cardiac arrest. There was no indication of foul play, but also no known condition to explain it. Authorities reclassified the case as an open investigation. Jared's house was sealed, and the staircase photos were studied by specialists in digital forensics. What they found was unsettling. The metadata of each photo was corrupted, but embedded deep in the files, using steganographic encoding, were GPS coordinates. Each set led to a different empty property across Illinois and neighboring states. Police searched every location, had nothing. But 3 of the buildings, dilapidated structures on the verge of collapse, contained evidence. In one, they found an old rotary phone still plugged in, ringing on a loop despite no connection to a power source. In another, they discovered a wall covered in photos, all of them missing persons, some of whom had never been publicly reported. In the last one, beneath the stairs shown in the photo, they found a body. It was too decomposed for facial recognition, but DNA confirmed it was Anthony Reed's, the man whose wallet started it all. After the discovery, the wallets stopped appearing. For a time. Until 2 years later, when a janitor at a Chicago movie theater turned in a lost wallet found wedged behind a seat. This one belonged to Amelia Trent, missing since 2008. The staircase photo was still there. But this time, it looked newer, digital, higher resolution. And this time, there was a figure at the top of the stairs, clearly visible. It looked like Jared Lomé. Except he had been dead for over 700 days. The photo was analyzed by facial recognition software. It matched Jared's DMV photo with 94% certainty. But the lighting, the angle, and most chilling of all, the slight smile on his face, suggested it was no coincidence. The case remains active but deeply stalled. Some believe Jared wasn't the killer, but another pawn. A messenger. Or worse, just one of many. To this day, every missing persons case in Illinois is now reviewed for wallet potential. A task force monitors each report. But no one knows when, or if, the wallet man will resurface again. The Numbers Heist. On a crisp autumn morning in October 1998, David Renton, a mid-level accountant at Calix Pharmaceuticals, walked into the FBI's Sacramento office without an appointment, holding a single manila folder. Inside were spreadsheets, receipts, and what looked like standard financial reports. But David claimed it was evidence of what he called the most elegant theft in corporate history. According to him, Calix had been siphoning millions of dollars through manipulated pharmaceutical orders, using a shell system that masked illegal trials on unapproved human subjects. He believed someone inside the company had created a numerical breadcrumb trail, one only a trained accountant could detect, using a sequence of altered digits hidden among patient trial codes and supplier invoices. He told agents he'd been monitoring the pattern for over 2 years. And now he was scared. Someone else had noticed his digging. His office had been broken into the previous week, but nothing was taken. His car tires had been slashed. Strange calls came in the middle of the night, always silent. Then came the note under his door, handwritten with no signature. "Stay out of the numbers, David." The folder he handed over showed evidence of over $47 million unaccounted for, funneled across dozens of microtransactions, each labeled only with single-digit codes like 6, 3, or 9. He believed the pattern of numbers wasn't random, it was part of a larger key. At the center of it all was one particular label, 0, the only one repeated consistently across every department, every month. The agents told him they'd follow up. They gave him a burner phone and advised him to lay low. But they never got a chance to speak to him again. 3 days later, David disappeared. He left no note. His apartment was untouched. His car was still in the garage. The only thing missing was the whiteboard from his office, which, according to co-workers, had recently been filled with hundreds of digits in a looping sequence. Initially, authorities assumed he had gone into hiding. That theory collapsed when a Calix janitor found the missing whiteboard weeks later, stuffed behind an industrial air duct in the company's subbasement. The board was smeared, but beneath the smudges was a clear numerical trail. FBI code analysts were brought in. What they discovered deepened the mystery. The string resembled a distorted Fibonacci sequence, but every 10th number was wrong. When those wrong numbers were isolated, they created a new pattern, a series of 8-digit GPS coordinates. Cross-referencing them led to an unmarked stretch of land in Humboldt County, California. An investigative team went out. Hidden beneath a rusted pile of scrap metal was a locked steel vault, half buried in the dirt. Inside, no money, no files. Only a single sheet of paper, laminated and pinned to the interior wall. Typed in clean black font were 2 words. Too slow. Calyx Pharmaceuticals went under 6 months later, citing internal corruption and a string of lawsuits. The company was dissolved. Its board members scattered into private ventures. No charges were ever filed. But the story didn't end there. In 2001, an FBI analyst working on an unrelated fraud case in Nevada found a set of digital files with oddly labeled invoices. At first, they appeared legitimate. But one of them included a reference tag labeled 730100982. The analyst, remembering the Renton case, realized the tag matched one of the distorted Fibonacci anomalies from the original sequence. That invoice was traced to a front company called Red Key Holdings, incorporated only months after Calyx's collapse. It was owned by a shell trust in the Cayman Islands. The trust's administrator? A man named Martin Hale, a former Calyx board member who had publicly denounced the company's fall. When the FBI attempted to contact Martin, they discovered he had died in a boating accident a year prior. But the investigation revealed something startling. In his private safe deposit box, retrieved by legal request, was a notebook. Every page was filled with numbers, pages and pages of them. The back cover had a note written in pen. Renton was right. But it goes deeper. Find the 9. What the 9 referred to was never determined. Some believed it referenced 9 shell companies that siphoned the money. Others thought it might refer to people, perhaps a cabal behind the scenes, puppeteering the heist. In 2006, another folder appeared, this time anonymously delivered to the FBI's New York office. Inside were updated numerical sequences, an altered Fibonacci again, with new coordinates. The team followed the trail to a private storage unit in upstate New York. The locker was clean, empty, except for a Polaroid photograph taped to the wall. It showed David Renton, standing in front of what appeared to be a chalkboard full of numbers. His eyes were covered by black tape. Written at the bottom of the photo in red marker were the words, "The numbers never end." The image was verified as authentic. Taken after his disappearance. No other signs of David were ever found. The photo raised a chilling possibility. He had either been taken or had willingly gone deeper into the conspiracy, and someone was letting the FBI know, piece by piece, just how far it all went. To this day, a small unit inside the Bureau, unofficial and off-record, monitors financial transactions globally for signs of numerical anomalies resembling the distorted Fibonacci sequence. They call it the Renton Code. And they still don't know who wrote the note in that vault, or who keeps leaving them new numbers. The Eleanor Lake Letters. The first letter arrived on a foggy morning in June of 1976. It was addressed to the Hammond family, whose daughter Lydia had vanished during a camping trip near Eleanor Lake the previous summer. The envelope had no return address, but the postmark was local. The handwriting on the front was elegant, cursive, almost old-fashioned. Inside, on a single sheet of thick ivory paper, were just a few lines. She wore the blue ribbon even as she sank beneath the trees. The wind hummed a lullaby. She did not cry. No signature. No explanation. The letter was taken to the police, who were already grasping at straws in Lydia's unsolved disappearance. They found no fingerprints. The ink, the paper, untraceable. It was strange, but not incriminating. Maybe a cruel prank, they said. Nothing more. But then the second letter came. This one was for the Matsina family. Their daughter, Claire, had vanished while fishing with her uncle at Eleanor Lake in 1978. Again, the letter arrived roughly a year later, on the anniversary of her disappearance. Again, it described the girl's final moments in poetic, unsettling language. She followed the light into the reeds. Something called her name, not his, not yours. She turned just once. Over the next 2 decades, a pattern emerged. Every year, like clockwork, a family would receive a letter around the anniversary of their loved ones vanishing near Eleanor Lake. No one ever saw who delivered them. Sometimes they came by mail. Sometimes they were found tucked under doormats, inside screen doors, or slipped into church hymnals. Each letter described a different girl, different setting, different details, but always the same paper, the same cursive, the same haunting tone. All victims had disappeared within a 5-mile radius of Eleanor Lake. By the time the 11th letter arrived, the FBI became formally involved. A task force was assembled. Profiler Dr. Carol Mendez described the writer as emotionally connected, possibly guilty, possibly delusional, but definitely meticulous. They believed the author was either the perpetrator or a deeply disturbed individual obsessed with the cases. But the writer never made a mistake. No DNA, no prints, no digital trail. In 1993, an investigator named Robel Van attempted a sting. A family who had lost their daughter to the lake volunteered to set up hidden cameras around their property the week before the anniversary. They even left an unlocked mailbox. On the exact date, August 11th, the letter came. But no one was seen delivering it. No motion triggered the cameras. It was simply there. Desperate, Robel analyzed all the past letters for geographical clues. He noticed one recurring phrase, the tree with the broken spine. Locals claimed there was an old, lightning-split pine on the northeast edge of Eleanor Lake. When agents searched the area, they found nothing unusual, until they dug beneath the roots. Roughly 3 feet down, they hit something metallic. It was a small metal box, sealed tight. Inside were dozens of black and white photographs, portraits of young women, all seated beside the lake, none of them known to authorities. Some smiled. Some looked unaware they were being photographed. A few showed fear. Tucked beneath the stack was a long strip of notebook paper, written in the same cursive as the letters. They lived where no one looked. They slept below the light. They dreamt of water. Forensic experts dated the photographs across several decades. One of the girls matched a missing persons file from 1965, predating the first known lake disappearance by more than 10 years. The discovery sparked new urgency. Police dredged parts of Eleanor Lake with sonar. Several objects were recovered, fragments of bones, a small pink shoe, a rusted locket. But nothing conclusive. There were no full bodies, no murder weapons, no names, until the final letter arrived. In the summer of 2001, the letter came addressed not to a family, but directly to Detective Randall Miles, the head of the Eleanor Lake investigation. It arrived on the 3rd anniversary of his daughter Emily's disappearance. She had gone missing while hiking along the southern ridge of the lake trail, a route never linked to previous cases. Miles had never spoken publicly about her case. He had purposefully kept the details internal, hoping to avoid the media frenzy. But the letter mentioned specifics only the perpetrator could have known. She knelt to tie her boot. The sound behind her not quite animal. She ran, but not fast enough. Miles was devastated. He nearly resigned. But then something in the letter caught his eye. 2 words italicized, southern route. It was the only time the writer had deviated from their usual poetic structure. He followed the clue. With a small team, Miles returned to the southern ridge, where Emily's backpack had once been found. There, beneath a gnarled oak with exposed roots, they dug, and uncovered what would be the first major forensic breakthrough in the case's history. It was a shallow grave. But instead of a single body, they found bone fragments from at least 3 different people. The remains were tangled together, impossible to separate without lab work. Dental records confirmed one of them was Emily. The others remain unidentified. The letters stopped after that. No one has received another to this day. Whether the writer considered the game finished, or whether Emily's discovery disrupted their ritual, no one knows. There have been no new disappearances tied to Eleanor Lake in the years since. But some investigators believe the writer is still alive, still watching. And perhaps, just waiting for the lake to call someone else. The Sleep Clinic Vanishings. Between 2010 and 2018, 5 patients vanished from a private sleep research facility in Fort Laramie, Wyoming. The clinic, known as Somnotrace, was housed in a repurposed Cold War-era military bunker, chosen for its ability to maintain near-complete silence and light deprivation, making it an ideal environment for studying extreme parasomnia, night terrors, and sleepwalking disorders. Run by neurologist Dr. Reginald Kale and funded by a mysterious biotech sponsor, the clinic operated outside typical hospital regulation. Patients were accepted through referral only, often those whose conditions had defied all known treatment methods. The first 2 years of operation produced promising results and positive testimonials. But after 2012, whispers began to emerge about patients not coming back, files going missing, and research data that vanished without explanation. The first disappearance was dismissed as a miscommunication. A man named Vincent had entered the program with chronic sleep paralysis so severe that he feared going to bed. He vanished 3 days into the program. The clinic claimed his family had picked him up early, but his relatives denied it. When pressed, the clinic said it must have been a clerical error, he must have checked himself out. Yet no exit footage existed. His room had been cleaned and reassigned within hours. Then came Chelsea Morris in 2013. A college student with violent sleepwalking episodes, she was admitted for a 10-night observation. On the 7th night, her biometric feed flatlined, not her heart rate, but her movement and brain activity. She appeared to fall into a state of absolute neurological silence, something even deep coma patients don't experience. The feed resumed 3 minutes later, but Chelsea was gone. No camera caught her leaving. The doors were all locked from the inside. Her room showed no signs of struggle. The only trace was a piece of her 4 tubing coiled neatly on the floor in the shape of an infinity symbol. After her case made local headlines, a nurse named Lena Fry anonymously contacted a journalist, claiming Chelsea wasn't the only one. The reporter, Aaron Rusk, arranged to meet Lena with hopes of exposing a cover-up. She never showed. Her car was found in a ditch an hour outside town. She was inside, burned to death, though the vehicle hadn't caught fire. The coroner said it looked like she'd been flash-burned from the inside out. The fire department found no source of ignition. Her phone, intact in the glove box, contained a draft email. It read only, "They're not asleep. They're becoming something else." After her death, Somnotrace went dark. They ceased all advertising. The website went down. No more patients were accepted. Yet lights were seen on in the facility nightly. A drone operator flew over the compound in 2016 and captured infrared signatures, heat coming from beneath the ground, indicating the sublevels were still in use. The 4th missing person, Miguel Alvarez, was a Gulf War veteran with complex PTSD and suspected REM behavior disorder. His sleep patterns were irregular, bordering on catatonic. His family begged the clinic to update them daily. On the 6th night, all communication stopped. When they arrived in person, the clinic was under renovation. No trace of Miguel was found. The family sued. In court, the clinic claimed he had never been admitted. No records. No payment logs. No camera footage. The judge threw out the case. That same year, a former janitor, Carl Detcher, was arrested for breaking into the facility during the early morning hours. He was found in the East Wing, shirtless and muttering incoherently, covered in dust and what appeared to be ash. When taken into custody, he could only repeat one phrase, "It's hollow now. It's hollow now." He died 2 weeks later in a psychiatric ward after gouging out his own eyes with a spoon. The final disappearance occurred in late 2018. Eliza Carr was a renowned lucid dreaming subject, known online for her YouTube channel documenting real-time EEG experiments. She entered Somnotrace as part of a special invite-only program. Viewers anticipated her return, but she never posted again. Her fans began investigating. Some even drove to Fort Laramie and parked near the old military fence surrounding the clinic. One live-streamed the approach on foot. The video ended after 19 minutes, right as the viewer crossed into the backwoods near the generator station. The final frame showed a tall shadow, inhuman in shape, standing perfectly still behind a window in the upper floor of the complex. In 2019, after public pressure and rising conspiracy chatter, the Department of Health and Human Services launched an internal audit. But by then, the facility was empty. Power lines had been cut. The building had been stripped bare. In the sublevels, inspectors found lead-lined observation rooms, restraints, and rows of analog data recorders, all wiped clean. No staff. No files. All that remained was a single reel of tape in the monitoring room, unmarked. It contained no video, only audio. A low humming frequency, barely within human hearing range, and something beneath it, a rhythmic, almost melodic whisper. Audio experts enhanced it. What they heard stunned them. The voice repeated, "They are not asleep. They are waiting to wake you." The facility was formally shut down and marked as condemned. But in 2021, hikers reported lights flickering beneath the soil. One claimed to hear a voice through the ground, whispering their name in perfect clarity. No one investigates somnotrace anymore. But if you listen at night and the room is truly silent, some say you can still hear that frequency, the signal of those who never woke up, because they weren't sleeping at all. Every case adds a new layer of mystery, leaving more questions than answers. Which one lingers in your mind, and what's your take on what really happened?